There. Well, the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology, Dr. Blade Nzimande, will launch the 2019 installment of National Science Week in Kimberley today. National Science Week is the premier science engagement initiative on the Department of Science and Innovation's calendar. This year's launch event is in partnership with the Sol Plaatje University, the Northern Cape Department of Education and the South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement. Let's get more on the story. A man on the ground, Reginal Witbooi, is in Kimberley. A very good morning to you, Reginald. A very, very important theme for National Science Week this year. It has to do with climate change.
Well, good morning to you, Blaine. Yes, this week, the week that's coming, we will be talking all about science and what it entails. The main focus, the theme this year is facing the harsh realities of climate change. Now, we also need to focus how science is linking into climate change. So the focus is today on Kimberley. The Minister of Higher Education, Blade Nzimande, will be delivering the keynote address. Exhibitors are here to showcase their talent and to get students to enter into the fields of science, mathematics and also technology. But without any further ado, I am now joined by Dr. Alfred Mwanza. Now, he is from the Sol Plaatje University and he's a lecturer in computer science there. Good morning to you, Dr. Mwanza.
Morning, Reginald.
Now, there are many people sitting out there and asking, but what is data science in layman's terms? What can you tell us?
Data science is a new field or area which deals with tools and techniques to analyze data. Now, why has this become popular now? This is because over decades, different organizations have been collecting data. However, the traditional means and tools to process this data are not adequate anymore. Why? It's because of what we refer to as big data. Now we have data that comes in at a high speed and also in large volumes. And therefore, to process this data using traditional means is not practical. And that's why now data science seeks to address this problem. So in a nutshell, data science is there to generate value from data. And so as a science, it employs tools and techniques to mine the value out of data. For example, if you're a shopkeeper, how would you know which products your customers like? How would you know the arrangement of the products in the shop? In this case, data science can help you to evaluate, to analyze the data from the till information just to know what exactly your customers are buying and exactly how you can rearrange the products in your shop to alleviate the problem of looking for a particular product by your customers. So in other words, we find that now that data science is able to provide value from existing data.
Now, this year we are focusing on climate change. How can modern data science be best applied to quantify the effects of climate change in various dimensions, from global agricultural productivity to the prevalence of vascular-borne diseases and violent conflicts in low-income countries?
Let's start with agriculture, because this is close to our heart. Food is very important. What we see is that when you look at agriculture productivity, we can measure agricultural productivity by looking at the ratio between agricultural output and agricultural input. Now, when you look at agricultural input, this goes to deal with things like land. How much land can you use to produce, say, food? You look at things like water. How much water do you need in order to grow your crops? You look at other things like temperature. Certain crops grow only at certain temperatures. Now, with climate change, the effects of climate change, we see that this had an impact on land. Land no longer produces at the rate it used to produce in the past. because the climate change issues have impacted on the productivity of land. So land as one of the input into agriculture productivity, we see that has an impact on agriculture. Secondly, when you look at water, now we have a problem of actual water sources. What has been observed through research is that there are a number of water bodies that are drying up. And as more and more water bodies begin to dry up, then we have restrictions. We have inadequate water to help us produce the crops that we need. And therefore, since the water is being impacted by climate change effects, we see how that is impacting on agriculture. When you look at temperature, there are certain crops that grow at particular temperatures. And so with global warming, which is as a result of climate change affecting temperatures, we see that now we have certain crops that we cannot grow in large quantities to be able to feed our populations. So we see that now when you look at data science goes now to look at these factors, collect data about water bodies, about the amount of water that we have in the world, look at land, productivity of land, and using that data we can now build models to help us be able to predict what will happen maybe the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, so that can inform policymakers to know what decisions to make now that will have future impact.
And then, very interesting there, Doctor. Just tell us lastly, we are sitting here with a square kilometre array in Carnarvon. Students are studying data science here at the Sol Plaatje University. How will they fit into that project?
That's a very good question, but Reginald, allow me, before I answer this question, allow me to go back to climate change, because the theme of this week has to do with climate change. You talked about issues of conflict in low-income countries. Research has shown us there's what is referred to as the green wall. Green walls simply looks at the availability of things like grazing land. There's a lot of conflict that arises because of people movement, which has affected grazing land. So as a result of that, we find that we have conflict in most parts of the world today. And again, when you look at research, we have a third of our populations living in conflict-prone areas. And now what has brought this conflict? One of the issues is land. People are looking for land, so there's a lot of these migrations and so on. But land, why has land become scarce? Why is good land no longer available? It's all because of climate change. And so us as data scientists, we try now to model all these different factors so that we can be able to predict what policy should be in the coming years. Interestingly also, I think you talked about the issue of this. The second item that you mentioned was on
global agricultural productivity.
Okay, that one I've already talked about. That one I've talked about conflict. I think there was one more.
I think to quantify the effects of climate change.
Okay, so all that is what we model using data science, because we're able to collect a lot of information that is available. For instance, data science uses crowd sourcing. This is where you can carry out sentimental analysis. You can get people's sentiments, and that can project, can help you to model which are the other areas where conflict can arise.
Thank you very much. Well, that was Dr. Alfred Mwanza, a lecturer at the Sol Plaatje University here in Kimberley, telling us about the effects of data science and how it links into climate change. Now, thousands of students are here to see or to learn more about the science and technology fields, and also the prof is saying that those students are needed. And as we also move into the fourth industrial revolution, we know that the keynote speaker here today will be the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology and Innovation, Dr. Blade Nzimande. We are also expecting the Premier of the Northern Cape, Zamani Sol, to be in attendance along with other doctors and professors in the science and technology fields. And if I may just add, we are sitting here with all the science and technology students, mathematics, science and I. we didn't had a good relationship in high school. That's why I'm just out here to tell their stories today, Blaine.
The brain power in that room is incredible, Reggie. And, no doubt by the end of this week, you're going to be an expert in terms of climate change. Climate change is such an important issue. The scientists have been warning us about this for years. The effects of climate change is real and it's palpable. We can feel it. Anthropogenic climate change is one such. It basically means originating from human activity. So what effects will climate change have? Not only around the world, it's not something that's happening over there, overseas, right here in South Africa. How would it affect our development goals? Key questions that will be answered there in Kimberley and around the country as we observe National Science Week. Reginal Witbooi there in Kimberley. Okay, if you are monitoring the rugby, the Springboks are playing the All Blacks and